Hi everybody, this is Black Rhino Ranger, doing yet another countdown birthday live animation I did last year commentary. And this time we'll be focusing on 2009, which was when I had my very first Newgrounds animation. If you're wondering what that Newgrounds animation was, it's called Jet Animals Christmas. Looking back at it, it looks super limitedly animated. This was a very new thing for me at the time. And it was also my very first DeviantArt drawing, and this is what I drew back then. My nose picking crocodile drawing. This is you can still see it for yourselves. And it was also when I had my first BRR Games video. Oh, like I said, my previous Newground YouTube channel was deleted, so I went with BRR Games, and that I've been using that one ever since. And this is what I did back then. I didn't create anything really. I just took clips from Zoo Tycoon and used a song from Big Green Rabbit for the dinosaur song. And I made a music video. That's about it, really. So yeah, 2009 was a bit of a revolutionary year for me. I am aware it's when people were really people were a little bit fed up by how many limitations YouTube was possessing at the time. And you have no idea how many limitations there were, especially when it comes to music, when it comes to the songs, and the length of allowing no more than 10 or 15 minutes per video, etc. And YouTube was a little bit more restricted back then. But anyways, what's my most favorite video back was? So what was my most favorite movie back, television show back then? Here's a strange one, the Superhero Squad show. And before I was more into DC, thanks to Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, Batman, the original Teen Titans, and Static Shock. And the only thing I was really into that was Marvel related was Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Hulk, and X-Men. I didn't care much of everything else, but when Iron Man came, I actually did get a toy based on Iron Man. And then there was an Iron Man movie, and then when the Superhero Squad show came in, I decided, this looks pretty good. And not to mention that kick-ass theme song, the one that goes, where the bad guys are out, all you have to do is shout now, who's gonna hero up? Who'll save the day? The Superhero Squad, they'll hero up again. A Superhero Squad, hero up. And believe it or not, fellas, the Superhero Squad was my introduction to a ton of Marvel characters, including the Falcon, Abomination, MODOK, Screaming Mimi. There are others I was familiar with, but I found myself really enjoying this. I know it was meant for kids, but I found a nice comedic tone of it fine. And I believe the Superhero Squad show is also the primary reason why most of my drawings only have 4 fingers, up to 4 fingers. I rarely include any that's 5. Sometimes I do a little bit of a 3, like with Trigger Happy or the Ratchet and Clank characters, but for the most part, most of my drawings are almost always 4-fingered characters. And now looking back at the Superhero Squad show, I can't say it hasn't aged that gracefully, but it's still a bit of a fun novelty looking back at it. Anyways, my honorable mentions will be Hot Wheels Battle Force 5. Probably my most favorite thing Hot Wheels related. It was about some Hot Wheelers trying to get some keys from alien planets in order to try and save the world, something like that, from these alien beasts and these robots. Another odd one is Spliced. Hey, I'm a fan of Crash Bandicoot and Impossible Creatures or anything that's hybrided animals, so Spliced got me intrigued by the mixture animals thing. Where it's kind of like a more kid-friendly version of the island of Dr. Moreau. It can be gross at times, especially in the intro where it shows the inside-out version of Andre, which is also used as the inside-out of aperitif. And this is another odd one, the Cleveland Show. Oh, I know, Family. I know it's kind of the weakest of the Family Guy shows, like Family Guy and American Dad. But there's sometimes I find there's something a little charming about it, and not to mention the theme song never lets my head. Like, my name is Cleveland Brown, and I am proud to be right back in my hometown with my new family. There's old friends and new friends and even a bear. Good times and bad times, it's true love we share. Until I found a place where everyone can know. The mustache face, this is the Cleveland Show. Yeah, I am aware. Maybe some people might think it's stereotypical of the African American community, but I think it's kind of it. For some reason, when I watch it, I feel quite relaxed compared to something like Family Guy or American Dad. Then there's Wolverine and the X-Men. I think it was meant to be a more darker and more serious take on X-Men Evolution. Sorry, I just keep hearing something. But I thought would have been a great way to start a new franchise for Wolverine and the X-Men, but unfortunately it got cancelled after one season. I didn't watch the whole thing. Heard season 2, they were supposed to include Deadpool. So anyways, let's move over to my most favorite animated film of that year, The Princess and the Frog. I believe for a while I was kind of a bit of a Disney hater because I was very... Maybe I was just siding with Cartoon Network more at the time, and later, and also I was siding with Nickelodeon, also siding a bit with Nickelodeon. Maybe I thought Disney was a bit too girlish for me and stuff. And when I heard about Princess of the Frog, I was a bit hesitant because again I was a little bit of a ew, girls are leaky thing, something like that. But when I saw Princess of the Frog on the plane, I was amazed. I was like, ooh, it's not that typical girly stuff. There was a bit of blood and a bit of horror and stuff. And not to mention, there was a return of 2D animation, and I was just blown away. And I really liked this show. And I think Tiana is my most favorite Disney princess. Admittedly, I have a bit of a crush on her. Let me know if any of you had some crushes on the Disney princesses when you were kids. Maybe not so much as an adult because some of them are a little underripe, so to speak. But let me know if any of you had any crushes on the Disney princesses as a kid. And not to mention the songs are really good. Randy Newman and the Shadow Man, Keith David is awesome as always. And makes me want to visit New Orleans. Now I got my visa. I revisited Florida recently. Maybe my next stop is New Orleans. Who knows? And funny enough, 2009 had a lot of great candidates that year. So choosing my honorable mentions was that all of these were very close calls. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Sorry, Animette. I understand it's not your cup of tea, but I still find something charming about the cartoony animation especially for its time, and not to mention how beautiful and colorful the foods are. And Fantastic Mr. Fox. Yes. A great one of the perhaps one of, if not the best thing Roald Dahl related. In fact, Fantastic Mr. Fox is my most favorite my second most favorite book from Roald Dahl. My number one would probably be The Twits. And then there's Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaur. In my opinion, the last good Ice Age movie and the last worthy sequel to Ice Age. I think at that point, Ice Age should have stayed as a trilogy because Ice Age 4 and 5, they were not my cup of tea. And then there's Monsters vs. Aliens. If you look at Susan, you can probably guess why I consider that an honorable mention. I used to rewatch that a lot, mostly because of Susan. Susan! Oh, I just scared myself. But heck, even the Mystic Link, Dr. Cockroach, and Bob can get some good laughs, too. Anyways, now for my favorite video game. Now, some people were a bit confused on this pod. They thought my favorite game was the Deadpool game, but no, it was actually Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, which was developed by Vicarious Visions, the same people who made Skylanders Swap Force, Skylanders Superchargers, and several Crash Bandicoot games like Crash Purple and Spiral Orange, Crash Nitro Kart, the other Game Boy Crash games, and of course the Insane Trilogy. And now they're gone and merged with Blizzard. But actually, the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 game I think is my most favorite of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. You get to freely choose your character at any time. No need to go to these pit stops for character select, and you can mix in. And it's a nice take on the Civil War comic, which I also own. No, it's not. Now, for those who don't know, the Civil War in the comics is based on the Superhuman Registration Act, where the superhumans have to register their identity in order to get good with the public and stuff for people's safety. But there are those who refuse to go with the secret identity thing, so they rebel against it. You are either with the registration like Iron Man, or you're against it like Captain America. And the game lets you choose a side. Do you choose to be on Captain America's side or Iron Man's side? And the Pro Registration Act also lets you tag yourself with some mind-controlled villains like Venom and Green Goblin. And but there's pros and cons to having anti-registration or pro registration benefits. Deadpool can join either side, but he gets more rewards if you go pro registration. Wolverine can join either sides, but you get more rewards if he goes on the anti-registration side. The game, and heck, this game is what made me super addicted to Deadpool, and I consider him one of my most, if not my most favorite Marvel character of all time. And in fact, heck, Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe's Deathstroke was another reason why I got into Deadpool, realizing that Deadpool was basically a parody of Deathstroke. Hence, the names are like Slade Wilson and Wade Wilson. And funny enough, the parody of that character is more famous than the original. Similar with Thanos. Apparently, the guy who made Thanos said he got inspired by Darkseid to create Thanos, and it turns out Thanos is the more popular one at this day and age. Anyways, my honorable mentions are Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventures, a series of video games which is like a clue type of game where you have to search around finding some clues and bits and bobs here and there. It's a pretty fun mystery type of game. There's Lego Rock Band, which is one of the few Rock Band games I owned, and one of the key factors to why I got into music. And heck, it played a huge part into helping me make my Skylanders with different songs videos. Like, in fact, Breakout I used for Prison Break, and Thunder by Boys Like Girls for Lightning Rod, and several others. And heck, and then I finally decided, of course I later decided to get the other Rock Band games, but Lego Rock Band was kind of pretty cute. And then there's Ratchet and Clank: A Crack in Time, the finale of the Ratchet and Clank future games, and a worthy way to end that little trilogy. It would be a while before we get a new Ratchet and Clank game, but they say it was the last really good one. They say the best Ratchet and Clank games are only the ones made by Insomniac Games, but even then you have to get to a brand new console in order to get your hands on that Ratchet and Clank game by Insomniac Games. And finally, Tekken 6. Tekken 6 is can be, of course, Tekken, bit of a fan of it, and it was when I decided to get more into playing as the human characters. Before, I was mostly into animal characters or characters wearing a head that's like an animal, like King, Roger, Alex, Gon, and Armor King, Panda, and Kuma. But Tekken 6 is when I decided to go more into the human characters, like even those that look like human but are not really, like Alisa. I had no idea she was a robot, and I had no idea she could take off her head or use her arms as rockets. And I think she might be my most favorite character from Tekken, but I might need to redraw her a bit more. Anyways, so yeah, that's my video game thing. Now here's another change in the formula thing for this one. So I got my album thingy as always, and then I woke up and notice that the backgrounds here, they got these crossbow things. This is referencing the fact that in Princess and the Frog, if you go to the Shadow Man's lair, there are these crossbones. Now the funny thing is, during the shadows, you see the crossbones. When you put some light on them, they kind of change into something else. And here, I didn't have enough time to do that change thing, but it was just a little something to point out there. So rather than choosing a few characters at a time, I decided to choose all of them at once. And I brought in the Enchantress from the Superhero Squad show. The show was also my introduction to her. And yes, there is in fact a Marvel and a DC character named Enchantress. But I added her here because she's a witch or something like that. Maybe I should have chose Scarlet Witch, but never mind. And then of course the Shadow Man himself. And Deadpool was supposed to be here, but the sign says on a chimichurri break. Be right back. And then I brought out those cards. Now, if you remember in the song, the Friends on the Other Side song, where the Shadow Man goes, the cards, just take free. And one of them has the past, the present, and the future as well. And this one is from a fan of mine who's also a fan of me, who also a bit of a longtime fan of mine, and he also is also in the Owl House Facebook on commenting or favoriting my stuff. And this is his question for me. The question is, what is your favorite cartoon? What's the very first cartoon you ever saw in your life? And I said to him, it was probably Spot the Dog, which is a preschool show from England. I think that was my first cartoon. And it features this little dog on these little adventures. And I remember the theme song in my head. It goes, Spot, Spot, a lovable Spot. He's soft and cuddly and he smiles a lot. If there ever was a pot to do up, it's Spot, 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 boom, boom. Just like that. And what's his experience in 2009? It was the first time I flew an airplane and started kindergarten, which is something I wanted to hear more from others, but for the most part, they just chose what was their most favorite cartoon, TV, animated movie, or video game that year. So I said to them, that was I kind of started off like that as well. I had my first flight to Malaysia in 1996 or 5, and it it was between England, and would go back and forth on going to England or going to Malaysia. And by the way, what I'm writing on is a mini version of Malaysian Airlines. You might have heard of the Malaysian Airlines thing to either MH370 or MH17, the ones that are missing and got shut down. Sorry about that. And what was my present? And what's his present for me? I looked into this hypno thing, and then it explodes. And look, Deadpool shows up. He can teleport. Now, Caleb requested me to draw Tulip from Infinity Train walking, and over here is a little car, and then it transforms into Bumblebee. And mainly, I cheated a little bit on this one. To save myself a bit of time, I didn't have time to properly animate the transformation, so I had the car flip continuously, and the limbs appear like that. I had it shrink a bit, and the limbs just pop out. It's all motion tweening. I probably should have done a bit better, but again, I was on a time constraint. And I had Bumblebee hugging Tulip. And I said to them, if only Infinity Chain had extra seasons and it wasn't removed as a tax write-off. It was based on what actually happened with the show. Hopefully the guy who created Infinity Train can still try and make that finale, or how he wanted the show to continue in a similar way into Final Space. Where Final Space was also canceled prematurely. The guy wanted 6 seasons, but only got 3, and it was on a cliffhanger, and so he had to convert all that into a graphic novel. If only Infinity Chain could have also a proper send-off. And also another show that I really, really love, but I'll talk about that on another day. So, yeah, that's my commentary on the 2009, and we'll be leaving the 2000s decade and enter the 2010s. I hope you've enjoyed this video.